taking their seats, a couple of things I do want to mention to you. All of our questions tonight, the candidates are hearing them for the first time. We did not release the questions in advance, so there's no early preparation. As far as the candidates are concerned, they're shooting from the hip on all of these questions. Also, for our candidates, since we have several people answering questions, if you would like the question repeated, just speak up and let us know and we'll be glad to do that. Okay, everybody ready? So let's start all the way down there at the end. I'd like for you to introduce yourself and take a couple of minutes and tell everybody about you.
Sure. My name is Gordon Porter, and to clarify, I am not Gordon Porter Sr.'s son. I'm his grandson. I've been asked that a lot over the past couple of months. So I'm Gordon Michael Porter. So my dad, Michael Porter, I've got the best of both worlds there. I've got the Gordon and the Michael, so it helps out. I've been a lifetime resident of Walton County. My father's been almost a lifetime resident of Walton County. My family has deep roots here. My mother's side of the family has been here really since probably the start of the county back in the 1800s. So very deep roots here. My wife and I have been married for 5 years in November. We do have a little boy, and he'll be starting school very soon. We've been very blessed in Walton County. We've prospered here. I have a job in Destin, Florida with an engineering company. I'm a project manager for a company called BECI. We're a waterproofing engineering company, and so we do primarily condo restorations and things of that nature. And I spend the majority of my time dealing with contractors and sort of the go-between between an engineer and the contractor. So I do spend a lot of time on the ground, in the field, with contractors, with their subcontractors, with their employees, and really get a first-hand experience of what the people in the construction industry and really the, you might say, the vocational industry in general, what they have and what their thoughts are on the current situation in the construction market. With that, I've been able to get a first-hand experience of the shortage that we have in the labor market. And there's several things driving that. But there's one thing that's been driving that for a long time as far as labor shortages, and I think a large part of that is workplace certifications and things of that nature that our guidance ideology and our counseling ideology in our schools right now, and I'm a product of this. For many years, decades, it has been a four-year degree is the answer to success. The only way to mean something to society is to get that four-year degree, and then once you have that fallback plan, safety plan, then we can decide to maybe start with. Okay, thank you, sir. Appreciate your time.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank y'all for coming. I'd like to thank DBPA for allowing us to take the time to introduce ourselves. My name is Bill Edens, Jr. I have been your school board member in District 3 for the last 7 years now. When I was elected, our fund balance was right at state level. Now we have one of the highest fund balances for a district our size in the state of Florida. We're very proud of that. We've just recently been voted second in the state in fiscal responsibility and transparency. As some of you may have heard, our latest accolade was third place in the state of Florida with our academic testing. We're very proud of that. That's been one of our focal points. When elected, we were 35th or 36th in the state. And in the 7 years now since being on the board, we've raised that to third in the state. We're very proud of that. When I was elected, we had one school that had an agricultural program in this county with no agricultural teacher. Now, today, we have 6 schools with agricultural programs. We just got $1 million in Senate appropriations from the state of Florida, $500,000 for Paxton, $500,000 for Freeport. We're going to build agricultural academies there on those campuses that will help with our oyster beds, things of that nature. Up here in the north end, it'll be more live animals and plants, row crops, things of that nature. We're very proud of what we've been able to accomplish in the time that I've been on the board. We would like time to continue that. I am currently a classroom teacher in Holmes County. I have been an administrator and coach in several counties right here in the Panhandle. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm MH Carr and I'm running for School Board District 5, and I've said that about 100 million times now. I've been married for 18 years to Matthew Carr. I lived in Walton County for 15 years. I have one son who attends Emerald Coast Middle School. I went to Ole Miss. I got my degree in Business Administration, Management Information Systems, so that means computers. I'm a computer nerd. I get asked two questions when I introduce myself, and it is, why are you running for school board, and what makes you qualified for that? The reason I'm running for school board is I'm motivated by helping others and by solving problems. When my son entered, it all began when my son went to the preschool at Point Washington, and it was associated with the Point Washington United Methodist Church. And at the time, I had served 6 years on the board of trustees there, and I was the liaison between the preschool and the church. And because through all of our leadership and all of our hard work, we became accredited as a VPK, even though it was a private school. Secondly, my son went to Bay Elementary School. He was one of those kiddos that went from kindergarten to 4th grade. And there, I don't know if y'all remember, but Bay Elementary School got kicked out of the Florida PTA, and we created a new 501c3 called Bay Boosters that's moved on. What makes me qualified for the job? I was the executive director of the Walton Education Foundation, which is the nonprofit for the entire district, for the last 6 years, and before that I served for four years as a volunteer on the board of the Walton Education Foundation. During my tenure, I increased annual revenue 781%, which means we started out in 2012 with an annual revenue of $45,000, and by the time I left, it was over $700,000 per year in revenue and grants. I awarded grants, scholarships, and helped start the STEAM school with the help of all of the administration at South Walton High School. I may not know something or know how to answer a question, but I promise you that I will do the research and I will be there, I will show up, and I just really want this job. So I really appreciate your time, and please vote for me.
I tried to do that without moving that chair, but I apologize. I'm Jason Catalano. My wife Tiffany and I have been married for 17 years. We have 4 kids, and when I first got elected in 2014 to the school board, our oldest was just starting her school career, and they have been the motivation for everything that we've done with the work that we've done with the school board, and they continue to be that motivation. I believe that because of the vision that we've had as a school district to put children first, that's the reason why we've been able to accomplish what we've been able to accomplish. When you make decisions that are based off how is it going to affect our students, and how is it going to improve the experiences that they have, how is it going to improve the resources and the opportunities that we can provide, that's how you get to be number 3 in the state in just 7 years. That's how you increase our CTE programs, right? We want kids to be able, if they graduate high school and they don't go to college, they need to go to work. They need to be prepared for the workplace. We issued our students earned over 2,000 CTE certificates last year alone. That gives them real life experience to go to work. We started the STEAM school down in the South End in conjunction with South Walton High School to give students real life experience with IT, with engineering, with the medical program, so that they can go to work. We created a school, one of our magnet schools in the North End, because we had students who we were losing because they didn't fit into the traditional school experience. And so we went to work, we put money behind it, and we created another school. And that school has continued to increase year after year. This year, the first students of that school graduated high school that never would have graduated. We graduated a student 2 years ago who had been kicked out of every school she had attended, graduated high school. That wouldn't have happened. So thank you.
What we're going to do is we will start and go left to right each time. So even though we ask different people the first question. You would go, if Mr. Catalano gets the first question, then Mr. Porter, you would then go next. So, okay, do it that way. I'll get us started, and we'll start with Mr. Porter. With reasonably new school facilities in most of our population centers, what should be the main focus of the school board for the next term?
I think the main focus for the school board in this next term needs to be increasing parental involvement in the administration decisions as well as the local school decisions. Currently, right now, I don't know how many of you have tried to attend a school board meeting, but they're currently held at 5 o'clock. Most working parents can't attend a 5 o'clock meeting. If they can attend a 5 o'clock meeting, currently, I believe they are audio recorded, but there is no visual or, for example, a Facebook Live sort of scenario means of attending that meeting. There's no reason why we can't have access to, social media and things of that nature to increase parental involvement and have them at least able to be aware of the decisions that are being made. They are welcome to attend. It is a public meeting. However, the way that the way they're set up currently, it is very difficult for a parent to be involved. I had the privilege of speaking to several parents over the past several weeks, and one of their biggest complaints is either A, they don't know what the decisions are being made, why they're being made, but really, and most shockingly, this was also teachers as well, they don't know who the school board members are. They don't know their names, they don't know what decisions they're making, and their decisions affect everybody's life, particularly the students, the teachers, and the parents. Those are, reaching out to those who are involved, those who pay the bills, the taxpayers. They absolutely need to be involved in the decision-making process and absolutely be involved at the meetings if possible, and if not possible, we need to have a means to get that in the palm of their hand if they need that.
Okay, Mr. Evans, same question.
I think that one of the biggest concerns for the school board in the coming years is growth. We're building new schools now, and they're filling up as fast as we can build them. Where we're trying to take portables off of campuses and put brick and mortar structures on, by the time we do that, they're full. So growth is going to be a key issue. We're staying on top of that. We've purchased property north and south end of the county to build new schools on, and we're being able to stay ahead of that. You don't make it to third in the state without parental involvement and student involvement. It just doesn't happen. Thank you.
Okay, that's correct.
I'm going to stand up because I was told my voice doesn't carry. My number one priority at the start of the next term would be communication. Do any of y'all follow the Walton County Sheriff's Office? So I think a lot of the problems that we have, like they're saying, we are number 3 in the state and we are experiencing a lot of growth. But if you're a parent in the school district and your kid is going to one school versus another school, the communication is different. It's not consistent. That's within the school. Then outside the school, let's get the school board meetings. Can we have a public information officer? That's exactly what Corey, and I'm going to mess up her last name, DeBriana is for the Sheriff's Office. Can we have one of those for the Walton County School District? They could go to the school board meetings when we can't make it at 5 o'clock at night and create infographics where it's a visual aid that says, we just passed this, we awarded this to, or signed a contract with a vendor that is going to help us with our our school bus shortage. So what if we could put a little school bus on there and write to the right and say, we have added more school buses and school bus drivers because we signed a contract with this. And if they wanted to dial down into the details, they can go to boarddocs.com and go read the minutes and read the agenda. But what if there was somebody that could just pop it out there and get the information everywhere? And would be internally, and then externally to the community. Like they're saying, we are growing like crazy. Well, what if we could create partnerships with all of the businesses in the area, or even statewide, to where we could, do the career pathways program where you have a student who's going to go into engineering. So you already have the company set up where they can intern before they even are set to go into the engineering, sciences, maths. You have this relationship so you know that they're going to go from step A to step B to step C, and it's all staying within Walton County. I looked up on thejobs.com right now, and there are, if you don't have a high school education, or if you only have losing time. So anyway, I'll go back to the communication. So outside of the district, if we needed to post jobs, communicate that. I follow Bay County schools too, because I was the executive director of the Walton Education Foundation, and we had a great relationship with Bay and Okaloosa County. Well, what if we could communicate with them? And we're losing a lot of teachers to go to Bay County when they're frustrated with what's happening in Walton County in their job and they don't feel respected. So just general communication within the district, outside the district, with the parents, with the students, that would be my number one priority.
With reasonably new school facilities in most of our population centers, what should be the main focus of the school board for the next term?
Okay. So I think that, if I'm understanding that question, it's connected to growth and what we're seeing. And if you look around anywhere in Walton County, you've seen the growth that we've experienced over the last decade. And that hits our schools first. People are moving here as families and bringing their kids, and we have to make sure that we have enough space that we can educate these kids. And so we have had a major, either a new school being built or a major addition to a school every single year that I've been on the board, because we know that that's where our need is. We have to continue to improve our relationship with the state of Florida. So the Department of Education controls a lot of what we're able to do. And our current student population exceeds the projection that the state uses. Their 5-year projection of how many students Walton County will have, we currently exceed that. And so every time that we work with the state to say, look, we need to build a school, we need to add on and build a new facility, we have to convince them for us to be able to do what we need to do at home. And so the growth is really probably the biggest issue that we continue to have. And we've been able to keep up with it, but it's an ongoing battle. If we, like I said, we have 4 kids. I'm going to have a high schooler, a middle schooler, and 2 elementary kids. Every single one of those schools is different. Every one of those kids is experiencing something different, and that's the same across all of our schools. Every school has its own culture and has its own identity, and that's part of the beauty of our community. And so there's things that one school does that may be a little bit different than another school, but that's who they are. And if you need to get in touch with them, man, your teachers are a phone call away, a text away. You can get in touch with the superintendent through email or his office. My phone number, my home address is on the website, my email address. Communication is something that we can always improve on, and we do. We continue to work on improving that. And as long as we continue to see the growth that we're seeing, that net gets bigger. We just have to cast it out and make sure that everyone understands what we're doing and the work that we're able to accomplish. And so I think the growth is going to continue to be the number one issue as we move forward. We're trying to build a new school in Freeport. We're looking at a master plan for Paxton to improve and expand that footprint for that school. We purchased over 100 acres down in the south end because we're going to need another elementary school, even though we opened an elementary school just 3 years ago. The growth is happening, and the central part of our county is where we're seeing the fastest growth, which is completely different than it was 5 years ago. So it's all over. It's coming up even in here into Defuniak Springs into the north end. I think we're almost 11% of our growth occurred in the north end of the county. We have to have the vision to keep moving forward and provide the educational experiences and the facilities that we need for our students so that they can continue to improve and go into the workforce at the best equipped that we can make them. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Eden. Critical race theory is increasingly unpopular with most parents for a wide variety of reasons. Although it is officially banned in Florida, if federal grant dollars were attached to teach CRT, what, if any, steps would you take to prevent teaching the principles of CRT in Walton County schools?
Well, currently I am a social studies teacher in Holmes County, and I do not teach CRT in my classroom, and we do not teach it here in Walton County. if the federal government wants to come in and tell us that we have to give money back, the percentage of money that we get from the federal government for schools is minuscule to our local tax dollars. They can keep their money. We're not going to teach it. There's no need in teaching it. I think I covered that.
So I brought the budget with me, and last year we received, this is the 2020-2021 budget financial report, and $635,762 is what we got from the federal government in that year. The entire revenue was $106,450,000. I would say $635,000 to $106 million. I think that we could live without it, especially with the fund as it is now. And also just know that 83% of the funds that go into the budget are local dollars. So really consider that when you're considering if we could do without those funds if we did not teach critical race theory.
Yeah, I think we're all going to have pretty much the same answer on this one. So yes, the state of Florida banned it in the curriculum. Before they did that, we didn't teach CRT. It's never been a part of our curriculum. It's never been a part of the classroom, and it doesn't line up with any of our principals here in Walton County. And so it's not an issue. It has been an issue across the state. It's been an issue across our nation. But again, it's Walton County leading the way. It's not an issue here, and it never will be. And I agree. We don't make decisions based off of how, where the money coming from, right? We make decisions based off what's the best thing for our kids. So if that means that we have to go to bat with the federal government, then we'll say keep your money, and we're going to be able to handle it. I don't think that there's a cost that I don't think there's a number we hit that says, okay, we're willing to jeopardize our students to get that money. So it's going to continue to not be an issue here in Walton County as long as I'm on board. So thank you.
Sure, I would agree with that. I think it's always refreshing and nice to hear a politician put his tongue to the roof of his mouth and say no. We don't need federal money if there's strings attached, like critical race theory. Critical race theory is only a very small part of what we're dealing with, and there may be questions dealing with this soon. But coupled with that are gender identity politics and things of that nature that are coming, and they are here now. If federal money is attached to those things, then yes, hard no. We're not teaching that. Critical race theory, a lot of people may have misconceptions about that. Critical race theory is the idea that America was founded and built on slavery. That is 100% false, and it's error, and that will not be taught as truth in Walton County. If that's federal money, if that's state money, whatever the case may be, it needs to be pushed and left at a vegetative state at the county line.
Okay. Now we'll start with Ms. Carr. The new parental rights and education bill stopped teachers in kindergarten through 3rd grade from providing instruction on gender identity and sexual orientation, and requires schools to notify parents if there's been any change in their child's physical, emotional, or mental well-being. What steps, if any, should also be taken to prevent books and online sites that display graphic sexual activity from being available in the classrooms and school libraries of Walton County?
Thank you. I have Googled this to the nth degree to figure out how exactly I would answer this question. The Parental Rights and Education Act is for kindergartners through 3rd grade. And every single person, no matter how they orient themselves or where they stand on lesbian, gay, LGBTQ that I've talked to, say that kindergarten through 3rd grade is not that's not a time for any child. Even, like I said, everybody that I've spoken to on all ends of the spectrum, that is not a time that you need to be teaching anything about sexuality. What was the second part of the question?
What steps, if any, should also be taken to prevent books and online sites that display graphic sexual activity from being available in the classrooms and school libraries of Walton County?
So when the superintendent was approached with this information, and I believe it was from the Moms for Liberty group and from the state, he pulled the books off the shelves and created a committee to review the books. I have not heard where that stands now, if they're still off the shelves or if some books have returned or not. But I think that the fact that the superintendent stepped up and took that off the principals and the teachers having to deal with that every single day, and it just being on the shoulders of the superintendent was one of the smartest decisions that he could have made. And to prevent, I think all of the policies that the governor and his team are coming up with are like with the curriculum reviews and the curriculum approved lists and things like that. I really think that everybody doing their research and actually, like I think Jerry Mickey even bought the books to go research them. I think just everybody taking the time to research what our kids are really learning is what I would encourage, and I would encourage parental involvement. As you can tell by my resume, I'm a little bit of an involver in the parent world, so I fully support just any sort of research, communication, show up. Let's figure out what our kids are learning and put the best thing that we can decide for them in front of their eyes.
Kindergarten through third grade, it's not a place, and it won't be here in Walton County. A lot that House bill covered a lot of things. It's a very broad bill. The state Department of Education still doesn't completely understand how it expects all of the school districts across the state to respond and show that we're compliant with it. So it's a very fluid situation, and we're working right now to make sure that what we have in the county is not only does it meet our standard and what we expect for our students, but that it's compliant with what the state's requiring. Every book in our library or media center was reviewed by a media specialist, and so that's not a new thing. We're going to continue to do that. I know the superintendent, Ms. Carr mentioned that. The superintendent was very proactive. When there was a list that came out, we looked at do we have any of these books in our media centers right now? And all of our media specialists went to work, researching, looking at what we had. Yep, here's a few of them. All right, pull them all, let's look at them. Let's make sure that what is there is age appropriate, that there's nothing in there that shouldn't be, and that it's only available to the appropriate age that common sense would rule. And so I think that's going to continue to happen. And again, it's the principle of putting kids first. You're going to hear me say that a lot, because that's the guiding principle in everything we do. As long as we make a decision that's right for our kids and we protect them, we can't go wrong. That's the direction, and that's what we'll continue to do.
Could you repeat the question, please?
Sure. The Parental Rights and Education Bill stopped teachers in kindergarten through third grade from providing instruction on gender identity, sexual orientation, and requires schools to notify parents if there's been any change in their child's physical, emotional, or mental well-being. What steps, if any, should also be taken to prevent books and online sites that display graphic sexual activity from being available in the classrooms and school libraries of Walton County?
Okay. I do agree. I think the bill was pretty broad in its nature, which gives the school board a lot of room to make policy that fits the county best. Kindergarten through third grade is unacceptable to be teaching anything sexually related. Furthermore, I don't think 6th through 8th grade or 9th through 12th grade is it reasonable to have those conversations in public school. That's the parent's job, that's the parent's right, and it's the parent's responsibility. Furthermore, I think that a great way to keep that from getting in our schools is to be very careful with what we're signing over allowing in our schools. The Moms for Liberty was mentioned a few minutes ago. They were able to find a graphic sex ed program that was being taught in our schools by the State Department of Health from 6th to 8th grade. I would encourage you to reach out to the Moms for Liberty. They have the information that they were able to find and basically drag out of those textbooks. We didn't know what was going on. We had no idea what was going on. It was a contract that was signed yearly, and as far as I know, no vetting of that was taking place. And as a result of that, we had a graphic sex ed program through 6th through 8th grade in our school district going on, and it was essentially being outsourced to the State Department of Health. It's great to ban at the state level, K through 3, education. However, if we're outsourcing it to another department in the state that the Department of Education and furthermore the local school board really has no purview over unless they do the vetting that they need to do, the state laws are not going to help us a whole lot. So the school board must be diligent and vet every single piece of curriculum that comes across their desk, whether that's outsourced to the State Board of Health or whether that's brought to us through textbooks or whatever the case may be, because I promise you right now there is an active assault against decency and common, whatever you want to call it, just normality, Christian conservative mindset. There's an assault against that, and they will slip it in. They already have. All right, so the conversation that we're having right now of if it happens, it's here. It's happening now, and we have to be extremely diligent with what is being allowed in our schools because it very easily can get past the door and we have no idea it happened.
Thank you.
I think that the governor of the state of Florida started that by censoring some of the books that come in through the state, and I agree with that 100%. Elementary school is no place to teach sex ed. It just doesn't belong there. Those kids are not ready for it emotionally. And we know that. That's just common sense. There needs to be, we have a large team that review textbooks and media materials and things that come through. But there's always room for improvement. There's always ways to get better at something. Parents bring those ideas to us. Students bring those ideas to us. And while we're on the board, we're going to continue to look at those things. And to answer further Ms. Carr's question, those books are still under review. I think there were 28 books that were pulled. They're still under review. They haven't been put back on the shelves. And those we even pulled some from middle school and high school. But we're dedicated to keeping that out of our classrooms and to get good materials in for the students to look at and read. Thank you.
Okay, the Walton County School District has received high marks and much praise for its educational success in recent years. What steps would you take to promote even better outcomes, higher test scores, and graduation rates?
Yeah, those are all very important things that we look at every day. So the state's changing our assessment, so we're no longer going to have the FSA, but because that's what we did have, that's what I'm going to talk about, because that's how we work with it. So the FSA covers 21 different categories, grades, subjects, and we look at what those percentages are, how our kids are testing, what the competency rate in that, and we use that as a guide to say, okay, where do we need to improve, or where do we need to put in more resources so to bring up a grade level or bring up a topic. And so we're going to continue to use real data from our students to do that so that we can provide what we need to them. Our graduation rate when I got elected was around 70%. I believe it was just under 70%. Currently we're at over 91% graduation rate. We've closed the gap between our minority students and our white students with graduation rates. We've been looking at increasing enrollment for our minority students into our AP programs and classes and our honors classes. And we have increased, and I don't have the numbers in front of me, but it's in some of those, we've increased the enrollment for my minority students into those classes by over 60%, and they're passing. They're being taught what they need to be taught, and all of our students are challenged to say, here's what we believe that you can do, and we're going to be behind you to support you, and we're going to do everything that we can to make sure that you have every opportunity and that you have every success that you can gain, so that when you leave this, you are fully prepared for the world ahead of you, whether it's college, whether it's work, whether it's the military, and that's good. That's what we do. And so we've worked very hard to look at our data and to let our data drive where we lead, not our opinions or our ideology, but what do our kids actually need, and that's what we're going to do, and that's what we've done. And that's why you've seen us elevate those scores. It's our kids doing the work. It's our parents being involved in working with them, and our teachers and our principals. It's all of that working together. That's how we become the third ranked district in the state.
I think our school district has done well. We've improved. I think ways that we can improve is taking a good hard look at our workplace culture among our teachers. So you can have, this goes for private sector, public sector, whatever the case may be. You can have the most skilled and trained employees in the world, but if the workplace culture does not empower them and encourage them and make them want to come to work on Monday morning, your product is not going to be as good as it should be. I know in talking to teachers over the past several weeks, we have issues with substitute teachers and having the ability to access substitute teaching. That's something that we really need to take a good hard look at, as well as their ability to make decisions within their classroom with disciplinary things. Right now, the teachers in general, countywide, feel like their hands are tied and they have no ability to handle the matter on their own. And I understand the reasons for that. There are legal implications and things like that that have to be taken into consideration, and I'm fully aware of that. However, I think that we need to do our due diligence to make sure that we have approached every option and give them, the teachers, the most power possible to help affect their classroom in the way they see fit. Our teachers did not sign up to be robots. Our teachers did not sign up for lesson plans that extend out 2 weeks that can change in a moment's notice. They didn't sign up to be taught or to teach in a predetermined, metered way. They went to school and got the training they needed to teach your kids in the best way they know how to do that. And the way we can do that and help empower them to do that is to take a good, honest look at our workplace culture, send out surveys every once in a while, send out workplace surveys to our teachers, see what their thoughts are, see what they think, what needs to change, what are we doing good, what are we doing poorly, where can we improve. I think really that's probably the biggest thing. Thank you.
The other speakers are absolutely right. We have done well in the school district, and we're proud of those results. There's always room for improvement in any situation, always. Being a classroom teacher, I understand what you have to do to get kids engaged and to get them looking past the bar that you set. And as Jason mentioned, we're moving from FSA into a new testing. We've got to figure out what the new bars are, what the new standards are. But we are preparing our students for the future, and we're going to continue to do that. To continue to do that, we have to take a look at what we can do to make it better. You do that in your job yourself every day, or you should. And we do that with the school district. We have to look at all of the ways that we could bring things together to improve on what we're doing. Improvement is the name of the game. And third in the nation's good, but we want to be first, or third in the state, excuse me, it's great, but we want to be first in the state. That's where we're heading. That's where we want to go. And to do that, you have to take a hard look at what you're doing every day. And if you're a classroom teacher and you're standing out and you're looking at the group of kids in your class, you know if the lights are on or not. You can see that in their eyes when you're talking and you're teaching. You can feel that in the room when you're teaching. We're trying to hire teachers that can do that on the fly and keep up with the huge amount of paperwork and all that they have to do. In my 30 years in education, being a teacher now is one of the hardest things to do. We've managed to bring our starting teacher pay up to what the governor wanted the state to have. First district in the Panhandle to do that. We're proud of that. But we still have to get better. Bay County pays more than we do. I understand losing teachers to Bay. And we're going to take a look at that every day, and we do, and we will continue to do that. Thank you.
So my son is going into 8th grade in this past year, and if you haven't noticed, computer nerds create math nerds. My son is a math nerd, and he started out this semester with one teacher, and he had a 91 average. He was coming home working on all of this really neat stuff, showing me his homework. We would do our math together. Well, at the end of the 9 weeks, the teacher felt unappreciated and unloved, and she left to be a flight attendant. So he got another teacher. This teacher was okay. I have nothing bad to say about her, but he immediately went down straight to a D. This child has never made a D in math in his life. He's never made a C in math. So I was like, hold on, what's going on? So all this to say is we ended up we got tutoring, or I ended up tutoring. Long story short, the teacher got used to teaching at Emerald Coast Middle School. All of the things worked out in the end. But I really think that happy teachers and hurt teachers are going to make our grades go up. And the kids are actually going to learn stuff and not just take tests. They're going to want to go to class. They're going to want to participate in things. Even as a middle schooler, no middle schooler wants to, at least, you got to be cool or whatever and not participate. But I mean, all of the kids were participating in the certain teachers' classes, and in the classes that there aren't good teachers, they're not, and they're sitting there doing nothing and not learning. And I really think that to promote better test scores, we've got to get a handle on our teachers and what's going on. Like, why do you want to go to a different county? Why do you want to go become a flight attendant instead of teaching? And I would also say that, in case y'all didn't know, when you're comparing Walton to the rest of the state, for example, according to the state, one guidance counselor is recommended for 1,000 children. So talk about staffing. How many teachers do you think have to go fill in as a guidance counselor? The most frustrated group of parents are the IEP parents, the kids who have special learning disabilities. They're hopping from school to school. I met a bunch of people at the farmers market where they follow their teachers around. So I know I'm going back all the way around, but back to teachers. How can we make our teachers feel heard and appreciated? And what kind of, and of course I go to technology, but there are so many solutions to this problem. What kind of things that could we take off a teacher's plate that possibly an app could do, or something someone else could do, so that then another person could come follow a teacher around and do their paperwork for them? Or, we fill out all this paperwork at the beginning of the school year, then somebody has to get paid to sit there and enter it all in because we don't register our kids online or with some digital something. So we could take that person that enters in all of this information manually from paper and take that person and go make them follow a teacher around, or they could go assist a guidance counselor, or they could go do any of the things where where the teachers are overwhelmed. They could take over the jobs that you don't have to be a teacher to do, that the teachers have to do. So, thank you.
And we'll start back with Mr. Porter this time. School curriculum has changed dramatically over the years. In your opinion, would there be any value in offering a course in practical living designed to prepare students for real-world issues? Would you advocate for a course that might include money and credit card management, basic auto maintenance, human social interaction, and spoken communication, cooking and nutrition, job hunting, resume writing, and other skills?
Yeah, absolutely I would. I think, anytime that you're in the real life, in the real world, if you're posed with, I don't know how to balance my checkbook, but if it requires Calculus 2 to balance my checkbook, then I can certainly do that. We have to really take a good hard look at what we're teaching. Calculus 2 is not for everybody, and I don't think that everybody in our schools are required to take Calculus 2, but focusing on real life things that can be taught is critical. there's plenty of people in today's world that don't know how to change a spare tire on their car, or balance a checkbook, like I just mentioned. I do know the governor recently introduced legislation to help with that and to help push that in our public schools. However, again, it is very broad, and there's a lot of room left up to the school boards to handle that. And coupled with our vocational training that we do have at our Okaloosa Walton Technical College, as well as in the individual schools themselves and our ag programs, I think that there could be electives or even required training for those basic things, like changing a car tire, balancing a checkbook, those sorts of things, as practical life living things as you were just talking about. Yes, absolutely, I would support that, and I think that's something we need to take a good hard look at. Thank you.
Mr. Ed.
Well, obviously, we are teaching those things in the classrooms. There's always room to do more, always. Students now going into college end up taking remedial reading or English courses and remedial math courses because what we're teaching in schools hasn't reached the college level yet. And if you're on a scholarship money's not going to pay for that course. You're going to have to pay for that out of your pocket. And that's going to hurt. There's always room to teach other curriculum in the schools. It's not just about, it needs to be reading, writing, and arithmetic. That's where it's at. But the way things have changed and what they're requiring us to teach, we always believe there is room to grow out and divest into other opportunities. When I was elected, we had fewer than 70 students that earned CTEs, Certificates of Technical Education. This past school year, over 2,000 students earned CTEs at more than just VOTEC, Technical College, Paxton Agricultural School. We offer CTEs in middle school now, which we haven't before. And we're always looking for ways to bring agriculture or mechanics or woodworking or things of that nature into the classroom. That's what we're dealing with in the real world. Let's teach our students what we deal with on a daily basis rather than teaching them something to send them 500 miles from home to sit and learn that same stuff in a book. We need real world applications, and we're adding those to our curriculum as we go every year, and we will continue to add those to our curriculum. Thank you.
So I do support this type of curriculum as described. I forgot all the words that you said, but we already have this. It's called AVID. There's also critical, you're going to agree with everything I say. There's also a critical thinking class in middle school. They can go and sit in these classes, and honestly, the kids that end up taking those classes are usually the advanced students that need time to do their homework outside of their classroom and get it done before they go play sports. Because the kids that are taking the kids that need it, I find, probably are taking what Bill said. They're taking the math classes and the remedial maths and the things that they require to graduate, whereas the people that have already reached the level of that they need to pass in math or English, then they would go to the these extracurricular. So another thing that I would say is, on top of AVID, what if we could create, this is just an idea, but what if we could create a relationship with a bank? And the bank could come in, this would have no cost to the school, they could come in and teach you how to balance a checkbook. How do you create the time in the day to do that? I don't know. I'd have to ask somebody in charge. And then what if we create a relationship with Food for Thought? They have a full-blown kitchen, and I think they already have a program. They already have a program with Food for Thought to teach cooking and cleaning. So all of these things are out there, but how do we communicate it to everybody that they are? So I think that just posting things on the internet and getting a public information officer, developing these relationships with local businesses and local community members, just really updating the information that's out there about what exists so that students can take it if they want to.
Yeah, most of what that list included is, we teach it. And I think some of the greatest teachers that I remember were teachers who took what was in the book and applied it to real life. It gave me real life experiences with it. And that's the type of teachers that we have, is they take, learn math and you learn how to balance your checkbook. We do that. AVID is a fantastic class that teaches kids how to write outlines, how to write resumes, how to put together a speech. Our ag program, our Future Farmers of America club is some of the most amazing kids that I've ever had the privilege of listening to, because they're taught how to speak publicly. They're given the opportunity to develop those skills, which translate far beyond just what they're doing in school, but that translates into what they do in work and life and everything else that they want to do. They're learning skills, not just information. And so we do a lot of that already. We incorporate it into our classrooms, into our curriculum, and our teachers know our students, right? They have relationships with them. They know when, if a student may not have somebody at home that's going to teach them how to do that thing, how to balance their checkbook or change their tire. They understand their life and what their home environment is like, and they work and they build a relationship to make sure that they have everything that they need as they're moving through. South Walton High School does an awesome program where they team up a student with a teacher from 9th grade, and that teacher is with them as they go through high school. And so at the last graduation, as I sat there and watched these kids walk across the stage, if you were at South Walton High School's graduation, you would see different teachers would come up and stand at the bottom of the stage, and they would greet that student. Those were their mentor students that they had worked with for 4 years, some of them. They built relationships with our kids so that they had the support that they need. Like, this is happening every day in our classrooms. And it's because of the great work that our teachers do. And you don't get work like that, you don't get care like that from people who aren't happy and who aren't engaged in what they're doing. Our teachers are some of the most caring and involved people, and their day doesn't end at 3:30. They're not off during the summer. They are working to improve themselves, to improve their skills, to learn new techniques and tactics so that they can engage and connect with their students when they're in the classroom. And that's what we do, and we're going to continue to do that.
Okay, Mr. Edmonds. High school students graduate today knowing only how to print, meaning they cannot read the original U.S. Constitution, Bill of Rights, or any other historical documents written before the 1970s. Do you think teaching cursive writing should be reinstituted beginning in elementary school or not, and why?
Yes, ma'am, I do think it needs to be brought back into the classrooms. Reading is important, it's fundamental, but the writing, and in today's world too, with the computers, you can type out the words that you want to do. That needs to be taught as well, the typing, because that's what we're moving into more so today. But I do agree that penmanship is important, and it's the base way that we communicate with one another in the office, in the workplace. So yes, it should. I agree.
So, since I'm a computer nerd, right, I can type faster than I can write. I can text faster than I can probably talk. So I really think, and I need you to back me up on this, I think that we already have handwriting as part of our, okay, thank you, as part of our curriculum, because when we moved from the Common Core to, what's it called now? Whatever.
State standards.
Yeah, the state standards, the Sunshine Standard, something like that. Anyway, it's called we have handwriting. So my son took handwriting, or cursive, in 1st, 2nd, 3rd grade, something like that. And he was great. Yeah, that he can't read it now, he can't write it now. So it's a great idea to incorporate that into some curriculum, but clearly that was wasted because it's no longer, he no longer has to write in cursive. He actually doesn't even have to write in school with a pen and a paper. He takes all of his tests online. I would say adding it to, I feel like everything is digital. I wouldn't be opposed to it because I feel like learning different languages and learning cursive is part of learning your past. So I'm debating with this in my head right now. I think that there are probably subjects that are a little bit more important. I would say like coding, programming, or like you're saying, the how to do with money, credit card, how to write a resume. All of those things would be more important, but if you had the time in the day and you could learn different scripts and how to read cursive and how to write cursive, then I wouldn't be opposed to it, but it would definitely be at the bottom of the list for me.
Yeah, so we do currently teach cursive in elementary school, but the truth is, who here has read the Declaration of Independence? Who read it in print, or did you pick up like a picture of the actual document and read the original? It's really hard to read, even if you know cursive. If you read my handwriting in cursive, I used to just write 100% in cursive in school. I loved writing in cursive. I got to college, and my English 101 professor said, if you turn in another paper in cursive, you will fail. Because she couldn't read anything that I wrote. So I had to quickly learn how to type faster than I could write, because it was the opposite for me. It is a skill that they need to have. If they want to sign their name, that's in cursive. Right? My kids now, my daughter, she's going into 9th grade, she's got to sign papers. Right? There's some contracts that she makes with the school of her behavior and what she's going to do. And if she prints her name, it's like, no, sign your name. And so that it is a skill that we teach, but our world is changing. The technology, we have to teach them how to type because they're used to their phone, texting with their thumbs, not a keyboard. Right? That's a skill that they still have to learn, even with all the technology that we have. And so it's going to continue to move towards technology, but it's important to keep that connection with history. It's important to be able to understand what a cursive F looks like, or and be able to write your name. So yes, it's important. We do teach it, but it's not as common. And so as anything else, you forget to how to do it over time. But it is important. But print has become the common way to write, and typing. Everything's typed. But yes, we do teach cursive writing, and I don't see an end to that. And I do think it's important because for nothing else, you got to be able to sign your name. So
I have been on the fence about that myself. The founding documents are written in cursive. The Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, the Articles of Confederation, they're all written in cursive. I love reading them, and I gotta agree, I cannot read a word of it, in the actual text it was written. It is tough. That said, I do think that the gradual going away from cursive, there's two things happening there. One is the technology era, and the typing is predominant in the workforce and absolutely should be taught. I do think it is somewhat indicative of the throwaway culture that we're involved in now, the plastic culture that we're involved in, where things just don't, we're losing our culture, I guess, to a degree. I don't think the cursive is necessarily the staple of American culture. I'm not saying that, but I do think it is good to teach a kid that there's more than just scratching your name on a piece of paper. There's a little bit of a taking your time, having pride in what you're doing. I think cursive brings an element of that into that. And I think, yes, it is taught in the elementary classes, but keeping that going through the older years, the older grades, I think would be a good help to introduce some of that skilled trade, the finesse that it requires. I think that would be a good thing to continue doing in the older grades as well as in the younger grades too.
This one would be from Ms. Carr. And this has to do with, and it's from the audience, it has to do with transgender issues. Would you agree or disagree that biological boys should be using boys' bathrooms and biological girls using girls' bathrooms and not mixing them, or not? And why?
So I think y'all clearly understand that I have a 13-year-old boy, but I'm going to say it one more time. I wouldn't wish for anyone to share a bathroom with a 13-year-old boy. I would say I have really thought about this, and I have researched I like to, if you haven't noticed, I like to just see all the ends of the spectrum, but I haven't found a scenario where a 13-year-old boy is in a bathroom with a 13-year-old girl sharing it where it ends well. I would say, have you been to, well, I think it's kind of boring if I talk, but anyway, okay, so have you been to like a Buc-ee's or a Busy Bee? They have full-length doors, they don't have sinks in the stalls, but what if you could, because of course I want to accommodate every student, make sure that they feel loved, and it's all about the students and, you know, making sure that they feel safe and loved and all that. So if you could change the physical structure of the school, could you take the toilet and put a sink next to it and make the floor up, you know, all the way, the door all the way up and down? Could individual bathrooms? I mean, Dune Lakes is a great example of how this is not even an issue. When they built Dune Lakes, actually Jason, I was on the parent organization and Jason was part of the committee that helped build it. And we talked about this forever because Carlene just kept saying gang bathrooms. Do you remember that? She said gang bathrooms like 20 times in one conversation. Anyway, so they have one single stall bathroom in between each classroom so that only one person goes in. Ideally, that would be the solution. Clearly, we have older schools and we can't do that. So until we have the solution, the physical solution to solve the problem, boys and girls, however you were born, need to stay in the bathroom where you, however God made you. I don't know how to say that very well. And then if there's a student that feels left out, that is experiencing the transgender process, I'm not quite certain how to say that, but every single teacher teaches because they want to, and they're going to make that child feel comfortable and find them a bathroom to go to and make sure it's not a thing or whatever. They're going to try to accommodate them as much as they can. So, or at least I have faith in our teachers, or at least the people that show up every day in the Walton County School District, to be sensitive and caring to those students as well. So, does that answer? I think that answered the question.
I would say that I have a 14-year-old daughter, and nobody wants to share a bathroom with a 14-year-old girl either. I think it's just a teenage thing. But no, bathrooms should be whatever biological you were born. That should be the bathroom that you're using, and that's what we do now. And the reality is that we live in a society where this is an issue for enough people that we're talking about it tonight. And our kids come from all kinds of backgrounds. Our students come from home situations that are vastly different across the spectrum. They're exposed to things. They are encouraged with things. They're all different, and they all bring that to school. Whether we want to admit it or not, these issues are coming to our school because these issues are out in our world, and these kids congregate at school, and so we have to make sure that we're making sure that each student is safe, and because we do have some students that are in this right now, and we make accommodations for them. Ms. Carr mentioned Dune Lakes Elementary. Dune Lakes Elementary has no multiple stall bathroom in the whole facility. It wasn't designed that way because of this issue. We did it for safety. We did it we had young kids, and it was a lot easier to make sure that they had a bathroom that was close to their classroom. And so at that school, it works really well. There's single stall bathrooms that there's not an issue. But we have a single stall bathroom in every single school. There is a facility currently that can handle this situation, and we handle it case by case, and we do it in a way that doesn't expose kids. It doesn't make them feel unsafe or insecure, and we want to make sure that when they're at school, they're there to learn. And we need to create a safe environment for them regardless of whatever they're facing. And it goes well beyond just gender identity. Some of our students are facing some things that you would never even dream that a child is facing. And we are put in a position where we can help them and we can give them support and security and safety. And that's what we do, and we'll continue to do that for every issue, including gender identity issues with our students.
I'm a firm believer that we are all made by a perfect creator. Our perfect creator does not make mistakes, and our gender is included in that. There are absolute moral truths, despite what the world is really trying to force down our throats right now. There are absolute truths that were true at the dawn of time and will be true whenever all this goes away one day. There are truths. Accommodating the mindset that there aren't is not going to do us any favors. In fact, it's going to open us up to some real legal problems if we accommodate things like that. To some people that might be harsh. I don't believe it's harsh. I think it's only been really the past 5 years has been a problem. 6,000 years we haven't had an issue, and now it suddenly is. I think one of the best ways to handle that and to prevent that is to have a policy on the books where we can actually make a decision, and it takes the burden off the principals from having to make that decision on a case-by-case basis. Right now, there is not a policy on the books as it clearly states a boy must use the boys' bathroom, a girl must use the girls' bathroom. That must be put in place to protect not only the school board, but also the principals from legal implications in the event that they do say, under their own convictions, no, you don't need to be using that bathroom, you need to use the bathroom of your assigned gender. It relieves the pressure off of them of legal implications. If they have to say that, that opens them up to legal problems if there is no policy for them to fall back on. So that's my stance on that. Thank you.
Yeah, very critical issue that we're facing in society today that I agree with the other participants. I don't understand why we're facing it now. We're dealing with it with the new schools that we build. We're dealing with it in the schools that were built prior to this happening. Safety is paramount to this board that's currently in. We want to make sure that all children feel comfortable, that they're safe. That's why we have guardian programs. That's why we have more SRDs, used to be SROs, in the schools now than we used to have. We have one of the best partnerships with the sheriff of any county in the state to do that. To make this simple, if you're biologically a boy, you're going to use a biologically boy's bathroom, and you're going to play boy sports. That's my simple, easy view on the subject. With all of the litigation and the lawsuits that are currently happening nationwide and in our state, in our 11th district, we're dealing with this a little bit different situation, but it is a gender identity they're dealing with in the courts because the Florida Department of Education has a rule written that says if your birth certificate says you're a boy, you're going to use a boy's restroom and you're going to play boy sports. It says that in the Florida Department of Education website. I'm not going to get into the whole case, but it is a case, and before we make specific statute in our county, we're waiting to see how that comes about and how that plays about. Even though we do follow Florida Department of Education's rule on that, which we haven't had any issues until last Tuesday night. But we're continuing to look at that every day, and we will look at it every day. Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations, candidates. You can now exhale. We're going to take a short break, about 3